Mhm. Okay, so you are recording this meeting. Be sure to let everyone know that they are being recorded. So this meeting is being recorded. Okay. Ah, wait lang ha. Let me navigate my simulator. Okay, let me present my screen. Oo din. Oops, nagahang. Ito akong... Can you see my screen na?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nagahang man ako. It's not responding. Oh, ito na. Okay. Let Okay, so nakikita pati akong calculator. Nakikita ba? Kung
Yes,
pinubutan
sir.
ko dito.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay, sige. Later, gagamitin ulit natin hiya. Okay, so let me start this discussion. So this discussion is about equilibrium and supports. But first, let me focus lang muna sa equilibrium. Okay. Okay, so let's start discussing equilibrium. Okay, so when we say equilibrium, if you have watched the video ni Ma'am Arjane, okay, so nga equilibrium, it only means that the net force. When we say the net force, ibig sabihin an kabuuan and sum total and vector sum and forces is zero. So a body is in state of equilibrium if the summation of forces along yes, the summation of forces with respect to any axis, and that includes x-axis, y-axis, and the z-axis is zero. Okay, so for you to be in state of equilibrium, the structure should follow should be uh, the summation of forces along x, this should be equal to zero. The summation of forces along y should also be equal to zero. The summation of forces along z is equal to zero. Okay? And of course, the summation of moments at any axis. Okay? The summation of moments at any axis, this should also be equal to zero. Okay, so nanyakan ha, your body, or in other words, your structure is in state of equilibrium only if this four ini nga upat nga equation will be satisfied. And this four equation, we call them the um, static equilibrium equation. Oops. Okay. So, itawag na iya is the static of equilibrium equation. So, if these four are satisfied, okay, so only then you can say that your structure is in state of equilibrium. Okay, now, Please do not be confused with the term equilibrium and stability. Okay, let me point this out because when I was going through the video, the YouTube video that I posted, may dito comment nga equilibrium daw is not always achieved. So nadepende daw. Okay. Okay, an example ni Ma'am RJ, if you have watched the video again, di ba nasugad may dada pin support and may dada siso. Di ba nasugad? Okay. Ngayon, this will be in equilibrium if the force here, knowing that this distance is equal to this distance, let's say, name this A and this is A. Okay, if the force here, P, and the force here, P, are the same, kung magpareho forces, and located at the same distance from the support. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, this is in state of equilibrium because when you sum all of the forces along any axis, now for this case, since this is just a 2D lang naman siya, di ba? So, ang masasatisfy lang mo ang summation fx and summation fy. Okay, and of course, the summation moment. Yan. So, looking at this figure, obviously, this is in state of equilibrium. Okay? Now, the problem is in the real life, di ba? Tuod nga situation, it aton, ah, ano ba yung term? It movement, I mean, it forces, the forces that are acting on our structures are unpredictable, di ba? So, diri ito niya constant because of the forces of nature. So, the unpredictability of, diri na-commute, naliliba ako. Okay. So, that unpredictability of nature, ito nga mga forces, ito, di ba, kay unpredictable man hiya, that makes it difficult for us to maintain the state of equilibrium of our structure. Di ba? So, amo ito ni problema. Okay. Masayon lang nga ah ma-solve naton if a certain material, I mean if the certain structure if or if a certain body is in state of equilibrium. But it problem is to maintain the state of equilibrium, 'di ba? Now, maintaining the state of equilibrium, okay, to maintain the state of equilibrium, let me introduce to you another term what we call stability. Stability. Okay. Now, no doubt, inihiya nga figure, this one. Nakikita niyo ita akong cursor. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay. So,
Yes, sir.
inihiya nga figure, no doubt, this is in state of equilibrium for now. But because, yun nga sinasabi ko, the forces of nature are very unpredictable. So, do you think stable ba hiya? Itiyanhi, ini nga figure.
Uh,
Hello.
Regarding Sir Akon, forces of nature,
Yes, regarding hit system niya, is this system stable? Ini niya.
not so much, sir.
Why do you say so? Who's talking, by the way?
Mendoza po, sir.
Mendoza. Okay, so Mr. Mendoza, what is your idea? Why do you think nga inihiya nga system, inihiya nga structure is not stable?
Because regarding kuan, sir, forces of nature, for example, the wind or any other forces,
Mhm.
ini nga kuan, structure niya dire good stable kay pwede iya magkuan, topple over or kuan, since
Uh-huh.
aniya kuan la 1 point.
Okay. So, okay, what I'm trying to point out here is that since the forces in nature are unpredictable, it could be for now, this is stable, pero there will come a time nga bangin mas makusugan adi di ha left nga force or dahil ba mas makusugan adi nga right nga force. So the stability of the structure is not maintained. Okay? So meaning iniya nga kuan is not stable. Okay? So dapat please do not confuse stability with equilibrium. Okay? Okay, now another example. Let me draw say nasugad. Yung ko nalit pag-drawing. Okay, what if nasugad? So these are pin connected. Okay, so say for example, we have a force here and a force here. So because of the forces of these two forces, amo in hiya it kamutangan naton. Take note this is pin. Ibig sabihin pwede hiya mag-rotate. These are hinges or pin ini. So pwede hiya mag-rotate. Now, do you think this system is stable? Let me call in somebody else. Please raise your hand if you want to answer. Wait lang. Feeling ko kinikita niyo yung taon entire screen. So, I will stop my sharing lang muna. Then, i-share ko ako on Microsoft. Can you see it na? Nakikita na ba?
Yes po,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Let me call in somebody. Okay, I saw Benedicto Laplana raising his hand. What is your idea, Mr. Laplana? What do you think of this? Is this stable?
Um, yes, sir, it's stable, but it is open for change. It is capable of handling changes since nakabutang po is mga pins, which is kanya pwede hiya magkamay rotation. So for the at present kanto hiya stable pero kaya lot niya makag-react due to the other forces.
Okay. Okay, let me
Sir,
go
ako,
back.
sir.
Okay. Uh, who's that? Sino
Sa
to?
usap,
Sabusap. Okay, Mr. Sabusap, let me hear your idea. Is this stable or
um,
not?
for me, sir, kay
Why?
may dako na basa niya, ano to, joints mas stable hiya kung three ka points it connected.
Okay, why? Why is it not 4, not 5? Kaya ano 3? Kaya ano man ini diri stable?
Kay itada sir nga ada haigbaw nga duduha nga points waray ma-support. Pwede hiya matumba. Kay waray man
Pwede
ma-support
hiya.
hiya pag di paubos. Pagkadiabot nga.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Sabusap. Okay, okay ha, nakuha ko ang point ni Mr. Sabusap. I don't know if nakuha niyo. Okay na yan hiya. Ini daw nga point here is okay, the whole system is not stable because this point here, um, if these forces, say for let's name this P1 and P2. If these forces will change, okay, iniya nga mga points here will also change. So, say for example, increase nimo an force and P1. Okay. So it dito na lang ako. Wait lang. It tendency niya is ma-change. Let me use this one. The tendency niya is, di ba, if you increase the force P1, the tendency niya bangin sumugad. Parang sugad makadihiya tas ini naman mapupush ngadto sagad. Ay, sorry. Okay, nagigets niyo? Um, Nagigets ba? 'Di ba? If this is the initial position of the structure. Now, if you increase the force, even just a very small change, may dahito niya kuan changes and position and points. So ibig sabihin diri hiya stable because kay itigam ni nala niyo. Imagine kung structure ini tapos may dani mo di habaw balay. Dani mo di balay tapos sugad ini imo support. Delikado, diri hiya stable. Okay? Stable na hiya for a certain kuan force which is not actually uh the the real situation in real life, 'di ba? Because as I have said, in real situation or in real life, the forces in nature are unpredictable. So we have to design a structure that can withstand the unpredictability of those forces, 'di ba? Okay ha? So iniya nga type of structure, this is not stable. Okay? This is unstable. Okay. Now, how will you make this? Yes. Okay, let me erase this one. Okay, so how can we make this a stable structure? Okay. Okay. Hinotoy Mr. Sabusab ba ato? Naya ka ni Mr. Sabusab, no? Kabasa daw
Yes,
hiya
sir.
nga. Stable daw its structure kung tutulo it member nga nagko-connect. Okay. And that's actually correct. Now, what will happen if we add another member here? Let me use another color. This one. Okay. If we put another member here, yan. So, oops, what happened? Okay, so naging sugad na hini. Okay, now, do you think if may da guti nga changes sa P1, magbabag-o lagi hapan ko an dinhi and position hand point? Diba diri na? Because kung mag-move nga ni inhiya nga di, the tendency is this point also has to move, which is very possible because this is the support, diba? Supports are always considered rigid. Okay, and also this will also can't move because of this member right here. Kumbaga, because of this member, the whole structure naging stable hiya. That is why, kung makita ka mo, itanan nga truss or mostly hit mga trusses. Okay, marang kami trusses, it bubong. Mostly it mga trusses is always iton hiya
May na pa letter
triangle.
V.
Come again? May na pa letter, ano? Okay, kung makikita niyo yung trusses, permi iton hiya triangle. Oo. Kitaan niyo yung trusses or kung nagbutang pa man nga hindi daw, triangle lagi happy ni. Okay, so amo ito ni trusses permi triangle because triangle is the most stable shape. Okay? Triangle is the most stable shape. That's why it is widely used didahit aton mga trusses. Okay, yun. So, that's what I'm trying to point out here, and state of equilibrium and the state of being stable or stability. Excuse me. Ano? SSG. Okay. Okay. Duhala ito niya. Thank you. Is there Alma? Oo. Is there Milan? Wala man dito. Hello, excuse me ha. Okay. Okay. Any question before we go on with our topic? Any question? I hope you have question. Yes, anyone? Hello.
None so far, sir.
Mr. Maroto, do you have any question? Alain, paki-mute lang ha. If you are not called, please mute yourself. Okay, so yun. Okay, amiton ha, that's the state in equilibrium and the state of being stable or the stability of structure. Okay, now, um, I am supposed to discuss the different types of supports, but Mom Jane did it well in her video. So please watch the video. Damo dito discuss niya ang tanan nga types of supports and how a certain type of support reacts to different forces. Please watch it. Okay. What I'm trying to here, what I want to emphasize is how to solve fast. So we'll discuss some calculator techniques. Okay. Now in the topic hit state of equilibrium or the equilibrium of forces, may nakita duduhang akoan. Actually tutulo. May nakita sinisiring coplanar forces. May nakita coplanar. Coplanar. From the word itself, coplanar, ibig sabihin they are on the same plane, di ba? Coplanar forces or this is coplanar concurrent. Coplanar concurrent forces. Example hini an unfamiliar ka mo. Katikahan physics pala, discuss na ini. So you have the x and y axis. Then you have forces. Say for example, this is F1. Let's say this is 50 kilonewton. And this is acting at say 50 degrees from the horizontal. And say you have another force here. Oops. It is F2, 25 kilonewton. And say the angle it makes with the horizontal is say 75 degrees. And another force here. Let's name this force F3. And say this is 30 kilonewton. And the angle it makes with the vertical is say 20 degrees. Nakikita ba? Nakikita ba akong kasurat? Okay, so this type of force system. Wait, may nakita three types of force system. Okay, let me discuss lang yan force system. It force system for system with S. Force system. So number one, we have the coplanar concurrent. We also have coplanar non non-concurrent, and of course non-coplanar. Yun, so habitan types of force system. We have coplanar concurrent, coplanar non-concurrent, and non-coplanar. So first, dito lang kita coplanar concurrent. Ibig sabihin, they are on the same plane, okay, coplanar, and also they intersect at a common point, okay? Coplanar and concurrent. Concurrent meaning they intersect at a common point. So that's why concurrent. Okay, now, say for example, we have this force system right here, and we are tasked to find the resultant and direction of the resultant. Diba, ang iyong bubuhat hadto nag kinukuha na yung laanay an. Okay, ano ba yung bubuhatin kung iyong solve? Let me call in again. Mr. Alde. Mr. Alde. Are you there, Mr. Alde?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Alde, what is your idea? How do you solve for the resultant and the direction of the resultant?
So we're solving for the resultant. We will be needing the both all the angles, the forces used in every
Okay,
line.
it's obviously given in there, Mr. Alde. What will you do with the given? How do you solve for the resultant? Sino na yung statics ngayon?
Sir
I think
Lisigas.
I think oy, kung inhayon ni Sir Lisiges, even in physics gindi-discuss pala niya. Ginaano niyo pagso-solve ang resultant?
Sir, summation both forces and vertical and horizontal.
Okay, okay. So ginkukuha ang summation of forces along the vertical line or the x-axis. I mean, sorry, the y-axis. And summation of the forces along the horizontal line, which is the x-axis. So for you to be able to find the summation of forces, di ba? Ang atong ginbubuhat, let me refresh you. Ang atong ginbubuhat, di ba? Ginkukuha naton ang x component, han F1, we name it F1x, right? Di ba? Tapos dili naman
Yes, sir.
ginkukuha naton ang y component han F1 and we name it the F1y. Di ba? Nanandun ka mo hini. Asya ba tayo yung ginbubuhat? Mr. Alde, I'm still talking to you, Mr. Alde.
Sir,
Asya ba, Mr. Alde?
sir, come again.
Asya ba ni yung ginbubuhat? Amo ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ginkukuha natin ang x and y components of all the forces. Then we sum it up, then we solve for the resultant. Okay, so ginkukuha natin din an f2y, din naman an f2x. Tas here, haubos, an f3y and f3x. I hope nakikita niyo akong kasurat. Nakikita ba't kasurat? Okay lang ba't color nga violet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So katiman nimo makuha ang f1x, f2x, blah blah blah, fy1, f1y. Okay, ginkukuha naton ang summation of forces along x. Diba? Amon niya ang f1x plus f2x plus f3x. Okay, tas kukuha ang gap natin ang summation of forces along y. Amon niya ang f1y plus f2y plus f3y. Okay, so amo ito yung pagkuha. Question again, Mr. Aldi again. How do you solve for the value of f1x?
Sir, 50 kilonewton times cosine 50.
Okay, very good. At least you can still remember. Okay, f1x, the summation of fx and the summation of fy. If nakuha mo na, isa-solve mo na ang resultant, di ba? The
Yes, sir.
resultant, now, what's the value of the resultant?
Sir, wait.
You're still searching for from your notes. Iha kita, Mr. Alde. The resultant is the square root of summation fx squared plus the summation of fy squared. Okay, that's the
Mas
result.
nag-compute na kasi kanina.
Okay. No, no, no. Please don't compute lang. Ginpapakyanan ko lang ang formulas and ways how to solve because I want you to appreciate what I'm want to discuss, what I will discuss later. Okay, so you have the resultant na, and after that, isolve mo na ang iya direction or the theta. This is now the arctangent of summation fy over the summation fx. Yan. So that's it. That's how you solve, di ba? For coplanar and concurrent. But in your calculator, luckily, in your calculator, may dito naton madali nga method. Let me erase this one. Okay, nala. Kinikita man. Okay. Now, in your calculator, let me share again. Wait lang. Stop quit sharing. Then, share ko tap whole screen. Okay. Now, okay. In your calculator, 'di ba ako na yung calculator, did I hit scientific calculator? If you can see your calculator. And by the way, you can zoom it in, did it use screen. Okay. Did it yung calculator kung ano man iton kung scientific calculator, damo iton hiyang nga modes, 'di ba? May da calculator mode, calculating mode, may da complex mode, may the stat mode and all. Damo iton hiya nga modes. May the binary. Okay. If you go to your mode, your setup, it's right here. Can you see my cursor? It's here, mode. Ito yung mode, madamo nga mode. May matrix, vector, table, equation, stat, comp, ngayon complex. Makadikit complex, makatukit complex mode. Okay. Now, if you are now on complex mode, okay, ada na kita at complex mode, it pagsosolve it resultant, okay, nganit iya direction is as easy as just adding. Okay? So, okay, tutuloy nga, ang given natin is tutulong nga forces, right? Okay, so what we will do, how do we input F1? Okay, and F1, the magnitude of F1 is 50. So you input here 50. Okay. And of course, diri lang niya magnitude ni mo input. You also have to input the direction and F1. The direction of F1, it is directed 50 degrees from the x-axis. Okay. Paano ni mo i-input? Dili imo calculator, may dihini nga sign nga, can you see this one? Nasugad nga ni nga sign. Oops.
Yes,
Kung
sir.
nakakanomdo ka mo, nasugad ito nga sign. Angle A, angle B. Ini nga sign, ini. Okay. Angle ito niya, itawag. Okay, so if you go back to your calculator, may dito the angle. Dito niya hit A. Baw. I don't know kung ano nga calculator ito mo ginagamit, pero dito imo calculator for sure, may dahiton nga angle. So, you input there, the angle sign. Ada man. Okay, nakita niyo yung calculator. 50 angle, acting at what angle? 50 degrees. Okay, be careful, hit iyo i-input din he. Hit iyo i-input din he, hit iya angle. The angle that you will input in your calculator should always be measured from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. Let me reiterate that one. Kaya, if this is your Cartesian plane, the rectangular coordinate system, kung naani din it imo force, it imo input nga angle measured always from the positive x-axis. This is your x-axis. This is the positive x-axis right here, right? So imo i-input nga angle dito always measured from here di pa kadto ditohan force. Okay. So kung naa didi diyan imo force, ang imo input nga angle taken measured from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. Di pa kadi ada ta may input. So kung naa di naman ti may input nga angle. Okay? Always measured from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. So let's go back here. Okay. Okay, adit iyo ko ana din yung calculator. So, ako na inputan 50 is 50 kilonewton at an angle 50 degrees. Yon. No need na to input the degree. Understood na ito niya nga degree. Bisag wala nga degree. Plus, plus another force. Another force here is 25 at an angle. What angle? Anong angle here nag-a-act? Okay, 75 degrees from the horizontal. But since ato yung quadrant 2, imo input didi 180 minus 75. Do you have question by why 180 minus 75?
No, sir.
Okay. Waray? Okay, sige. Okay, so that's it. Then another force, adi naman 30 kilonewton, F3. So you input 30 acting at an angle. What angle? 20 from the vertical, 'di ba? Pero imo input always measured from the positive x-axis. So that is you have to use grouping symbol 270 plus 20. Yun. 270 plus 20. Do you have any question why 270 plus 20? Ada ba pakiana? Okay, 270 because okay, let me nasugad 'di ba? Tikan din tikan ha positive x-axis nga didi is 270. Takan mo force na kadiman didi tas 20 daw ini. So 270 plus 20. That's why 270 plus 20 and 30. And 30 kilonewton. Diba? May 270 plus 20. Okay. So that's it. Amo ulit ulit imo i-input. Then if you press equal, it masasubtract nimo dida. Okay, 35.929 tas damo pa tapos plus 34.25 tas may niya I. Ba kay complex nan. You are in complex mode. So complex may niya I. Okay, so pindot tala ini nga SD. Okay. Pindot ko lang SD para makita nimo tanan ang number. Okay. It yan nga number, ano una nga number nga result, and what I. Okay. That's the summation fx. Ay, nato. Ini nga 35.9295, amo ito niya ang summation fx. Okay? The x-axis, the summation along the x-axis. And the 34.25958919 and may padis nga I, nga imaginary, amo ito niya ang summation fy. Ba? Amo na ito niya. Now, how do you get an R nga han theta? An R, okay. Dinit complex mode, if you go right here, did hit number 2. Babaw hit number 2, may that word dida nga complex. Diba? So you are in complex mode, tas makadi ka ha complex at hit babaw. Okay? So to enable that one, ini nga complex, makadi kita shift tapos complex. Tas mapindot ka. Okay, edit magawas. Argument, conjugate, tapos R angle theta, tapos ABI. Okay, balik kita nga di. An aton result is in terms of, di ba, 35 plus 34i. Parang that is in terms of A plus BI. Okay, asya ng form han aton answer. Wherein the A is the summation fx and the B is the summation fy. We're trying to solve for R and theta. So how do we do that here in your calculator? Okay, makadi ka shift to number 2 because add to an complex. Dak maaram kung ano yung ginagamit nga calculator pero dito yung calculator may daghap iton. Okay. Shift number 2 at it complex. We will transform this one. Nakita niyo ita akong cursor A plus BI. Ita-transform natin into the form R angle theta. So pipindutin natin ang number 3. Ang aton answer let's screen it calculator. Ang aton answer daw ita-transform natin into the form R angle theta. You just press equal and para makita nimo tanan, press SD. Okay, adan na. 49.64 645, that's the resultant, the R. And angle 43.63, amo ito niya ang theta. Now take note again. This is very important ha. Iniya nga angle nga result dinhi that is measured from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. So kung pananglitan, ang result nga theta is 150 degrees. So ipag-locate lang ito nimo makada kahit Cartesian plane, hain bet 150. So adi di diyan nimo resultant. Sorry. Adi diyan nimo resultant kay 150 man daw. So this is the 150. Take note, the angle we're talking right here is always measured from the positive x-axis. Okay. Any question?
Sir, about decimals, sir. Depende na lang ito.
What do you mean?
Kung pera ba bibilin in decimals for final answer?
Okay. For final answer, mas okay kun 5 decimal places. And kung diri nga ni kuan, kung fraction nga ni, okay, okay. Let me explain na lang it iyo quizzes. Okay, it iyo quizzes, or plates, patit plates. You have to input your answer Google Form. Google Form it aton gagamiton. So pag input niyo Google Form it iyo answer, diri na niyo i-input an unit. Okay? So follow ka mo it ginaaro dito question ko. So meron it question find the angle in radians. So, dapat understood na ito nga imo igahatag nga answer naka radian. Okay? So you no need na to input the unit. Okay. Now as to the ano naman, as to the decimal places, I will require you to input up to 5 decimal places because it magche-check hiton is computer. And it pag-check it computer, it pagso-solve it computer is fairly accurate. Okay? So do not round off if it's still not yet the final answer. Take note ha. Do not round off if it's not yet the final answer. A final answer ka lang mag-round off and imo i-round off lies up to 5 decimal places. Okay? Kasi it computer accurate tanan nga kuan tanan nga number iyat gin gagamit. Okay? So computer it magche-check it iyo answer. And so mag-input nga ni kamo up to 5 decimal places. Para at least mag-iba man it imo answer ng computer, ada lahit kuan, ada lahit the third decimal place, 3 to 5 decimal places lang mag-iiba. Pero ang first decimal place nga second decimal place, amo lagi hap. Okay? Para diri dako it discrepancy. Kay magdako nga discrepancy, imo mark wrong iton hit computer. Okay, and by the way, it iyo iton mga question is iba-iba. So, makikita niyo yung first plate. Okay, any other question or concern? Hello?
Okay, nada, sir.
Okay po, sir.
Okay. Okay, we still have time. Okay, let me ibonta it kuan it dalagan it problem. What if nasugad it problem? You have a Cartesian plane or a rectangular coordinate system. And given an EA resultant, say the resultant is at the fourth quadrant. Okay, let's name this the resultant, and the resultant is 28 pounds. 28 pounds. Okay, and say naghataghan usa nga force. Excuse me. Let's name this F1, and this is 30 pounds. Let's say this is 50 degrees. Tapos meron natin didi usa pang force. F2. Let's name this 20 pounds. And the angle it makes with the horizontal, say this is 15 degrees. Tapos, pananglitan, may daw kita usa pang force kung bibiling F3. Let's say, didi. Okay. May daw kita usa pang F3. Usa pang force. Let's name the F3. But the F3 is, we don't know the magnitude of F3. We don't know the direction of F3. Only that, maanong kitahan resultant. Okay, let's identify gihapon niya direction. Let's say this is 45 degrees. Yan, okay. So given a resultant, yeah, given a resultant, tapos gipapabiling an F3 nga force, an iya magnitude and an excuse me, an iya magnitude nga niya direction, para magkamay-ada kita yung resultant nga ang magnitude is 28 pounds and acting at 45 degrees from the vertical in quadrant 4. Okay, so naintindihan niyo yung problem didi kangina ang ginbibiling ang resultant given ang tutulong nga forces. Yan na, given ang resultant ang ginbibiling ang usa nga force nga nga naga-act hiton dida nga coplanar force system para makahimo kita yung resultant nga 28 pounds acting at 45 degree from the vertical. Okay, so how do we do this using the calculator techniques? Masayon lang iton hiya. Okay. So kung didi para nakuha naton ang resultant, gin-add ta ang F1, F2, F3 gin-add ta. Didi para makuha naton ang F3, masayon lang. You have the sum kumbaga the end resultant, that's the sum, ima-minus mo lang F1 ngan F2, makukuha mo ang F3. Diba? Parang algebraic lang nga solution. So, if you get your calculator, masugad lang ito niya. Okay. Let me reset my calculator. Okay, makatukit ha, mode 2 or the complex mode. Pagkatapos natin complex mode, okay, i-input natin una natin i-input ang resultant. That's the 28 acting at an angle. Take note again, angle nga i-input is always measured from the positive x-axis. So, ano nga angle mo input din? Anybody?
One, sir.
Kwan, sir,
270
270
plus
plus
45
450.
plus 45.
270.
270 plus 45. Yan. Tapos ima-minus natin ang F1 ngan F2. O F1 muna, 30 acting at an angle. What angle? 50, 'di ba? Tapos minus again. 20 naman acting at an angle. What angle?
180
180
minus
minus
180
50.
minus 15.
O, 'di ba? Tayon la. 180 minus 15. Then press equal. O, may da ka na. 19, okay ha? Ini nga 19, amuin hiya 19.833878811. Amuin hiya an x component han F3. Okay? This is the x component of F3. And y component of F3 naman is 47.9567. And may the I. So x, y. Okay? The x and y component of F3. Okay, amo ito niya. Pero kung ang bibiling kasi, ang magnitude. Take note, x component pala niya. So, madali ila. Makadikahan complex shift complex, adi number 2, di ba may complex dida? Shift complex. Tapos ita-transform ni mo answer into r angle theta. Press number 3. Kung mo answer, ita-transform ni mo into this form. Tapos you press equal. And result is, I'll press SD para makita ko tanan na number. So the answer is 51.89632. 51.89632. So I'll put it here. This is 51 51.89632. 89632. 89632. This is in pounds. And acting daw at an angle 67, negative 67. Okay. Negative 67 man hiya. Ibig sabihin, ang imo pag-measure, diri counterclockwise. Clockwise hiya because negative. Okay, so always, okay, take note, always starts from the positive x-axis. So, kung positive an angle, kuan ito hiya, counterclockwise. Negative an angle, clockwise ito hiya. So, acting at an angle, negative 67. Ha, ito nga 67. Okay, so, i-drawing ko na lang ha. 67 man, so 45. So, somewhere here, nasugad. This is your F3, and F3 is 51.89632 pounds. And the angle here, amo itong hiyaan 67.53104. This is in degree. Okay. Take note ha, ini nga negative sign, it only indicates the direction how the angle is being measured. So negative, so clockwise siya. Sa amin it imo F3. Di ba masayon la pag-solve? Masayon la pag-solve kung magamit kay calculator. Yun. Okay. Any other question before we go on to the next system of forces, force system? Wala ba pa kay Ana? Naintindihan? Naintindihan kaya ang complex mode?
Naintindihan po, sir.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's go now to, so this is coplanar concurrent. Next is coplanar. Coplanar non-concurrent. Okay. Coplanar lagyapi pero diri na siya concurrent. So usually nasugalit itsura hinini. Okay. Actually, in real life, ini nga coplanar non-concurrent is more accurate than, I mean, more true to life kaysahan concurrent because in real life talaga diri man concurrent it mga forces, di ba? Okay, but then again, diri totally similar in real life because it coplanar diri gihap parang nahinanabuga diya pero seldom yan nananabo in real life. Kasi 3D man it kuan, di ba? It real situation. So it coplanar 2D man lahiya. So we're living in the world of 2D man it aton kuan, di ba? Reality. So but in compared to concurrent forces, this is more true to life. Okay. So coplanar and concurrent. So they lie on the same plane but they don't intersect at a common point. For example, may force. Oops. Let's name this force F1. Okay. Let's name this point A. Okay, F1 and say pwede natin di paano ba? Sugad. Another force. Let's name this F2. Let's name this B. And another force naman, say here. Let's name this F3. Tapos say this is C. Okay. So sukad hini, coplanar and concurrent. Okay, so yung papabiling hini dinhi, of course, pareho didi. Han coplanar concurrent, ang papabiling is the resultant and the direction. Okay. Rini, since this is 2D na, ang papabiling dinhi is the magnitude of the resultant and the direction of the resultant. And one last thing is the location of the resultant. Okay, take note, this is not concurrent naman. Dili naman hiya yes, dili na hiya concurrent. So they do not intersect at a common point. So you have to identify also kung diin nag-a-act ang iya net force and iya resultant. Okay, so totoo tat ngin bibiling the magnitude of the resultant, the direction of the resultant, and the location of the resultant. Okay, so unahon naton pagbilinghan iya magnitude. So how do we do that? Okay. Same lang how. Didihan aton coplanar concurrent and aton pagbilinghan iya resultant gin kukuan ta lagin di ba gin kuhatan sa mission fx sa mission fy tas the resultant masayon na pagbiling. Pareho nga itong dinhi pagbiling it iya resultant. It magnitude I'm talking about the magnitude. Masayon lagyap it pagbiling it magnitude. Okay, so masugad. Ah let's use calculator. Wala ko pa specify. Say this is 1 unit or 1 meter. Ay, wala ko pa identify ang magnitude ng F1, F2, F3. Ano na? Wala ko pa kuan. Let's say F1 is 25 kilonewton. F2 is 10 kilonewton. F3 naman, this is 18 kilonewton. Pananglitan. Excuse me, wait lang.
Excuse me, sir. Nakamute ka pa po.
Oh, sorry. So we are trying to solve for the magnitude, the direction, and the location. So let's start with the magnitude. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay. Ikita ko nimo it mga forces. Parang similar lang ahawan kanina. You will treat this as if this is concurrent. Okay? Iti-treat mo lang niya as concurrent. Okay, let's start with F1. Okay, input nimo din F1, di ba? You have here 25 acting at an angle. What angle? Arit angle niya? With the positive x-axis. Take note with the positive x-axis. So mag-drawing ka din hin x and y component din ilang kinikita it violet or orange. Mag-drawing ka din hin x and y component, dida. Tapos ang angle nga mo kukuhawon is always measured from the positive x-axis. So ini nga angle. So how do we do that? Let's name that theta 1. So theta 1 is equal to ikitaon nimo pipera ba itiya direction. What's the angle of theta 1? Arctangent opposite. Di ba may niya triangle? Maggamit na naman niyo kuanan niyo skill han trigonometry. This is right triangle. So arctangent opposite, that is 3 over adjacent, which is 2. Arctangent 3 over 2. So your theta 1 is equal to, pera ba ito niya? This is 56. 56.3. Actually, kaya ano ko gamitan akong calculator. Para makita niyo. Okay, makatula na kit mode calc. Okay? Okay. To solve for theta, of course, arctangent, oops, F man ito. Shift arctan 3 over 2. 3 over 2. Over 2. Yan. So arctangent 3 over 2. Ito niya nga 56.30993247. Di ba amit result, theta? Ayaw lang na i-ground off because that's not yet your final answer. So what will you do? You store it in your calculator. Para ka mag-store in value, 56.30993247. I will store it at A, adaman. Pag store ni mo is shift, tapos adi man hababaw, store, STO, store, to mapila kayo letter A, B, C, D, E, F, X, Y, and M. So store ko hiya A. So na akong answer and 56.3099 gin store ko ha A. Tigam lang ko lang gin store ko ini hiya A. Okay. So after that, you already have the isolve ta na lugod ang mga angles din hi. For F2 naman any angle, let's name this. You have X and Y axis here, X and Y axis. So your angle here is, let's name that theta 2 for F2. Solving for theta 2 naman, this is equal to arctangent again. Arctangent, looking here, you have a triangle again, right triangle. Diba? Right triangle here. Opposite, which is 1, over adjacent, which is 3. So arctangent 1/3. How do we solve that? What's the value of arctangent? You have arctangent 1/3. Yan. So equal, that is 18.4349. I will store it because this is not yet the final answer. Diri ko i-ground off. Diri ila 18.43 akong gagamiton. Kita akong gagamiton ni store ko yang adto naman habi. Diri ko i-store kami ako naging store Mao overwrite kasi an na-store ko nga data So, store ko ay. Habi na ko naman ni store. Okay, that is 18.42. 43. 18.43. This is in degrees. Gin-store ko hiya habi. Okay. Next naman, and C, masaya let's see, kay upward vertical hiya. So, 90 degrees. Di ba 90 degrees? Okay, so 90 degrees and kuan. And theta C. Theta 3 for F3. Okay, so makatungawa ka mode 2. Mode 2, complex mode. Okay, mode 2, since I already have the angles, unang kuhan F1, this is 25, acting at an angle. What angle? 53.3. Take note from the positive x-axis. Di ba? Counterclockwise. So, positive 53.3. Ginstore ko man niya so nalatak ibubutang lida. Ginstore ko ay, di ba? Adi man, tigam ng store ko ay. Plus, sunod is an F2, which is 10 kilonewton, acting at an angle. What angle? Theta 2. Theta 2, ginstore ko ha B. Take note, measured from the positive x-axis counterclockwise. So, di man niya fourth quadrant. Fourth quadrant man niya, di ba? So, kung clockwise nga ipag-measured, magiging negative. So, ibubutang ko din negative B. The negative B ko here because counterclockwise. Clockwise siya. Tas adi ha fourth quadrant. Or pwede gihap instead nga negative B, pwede imo ibutang dida is 360. Ibig sabihin, 1 complete rotation minus B. Pareho la ito niya. Diba? Okay, let me discuss that. Okay, adi man kita, diba? So, this is negative B. Okay. Pwede gyapit imong input nga angle, di nga angle. And this angle is 360 minus B. Diba? Nakuha niyo? Sana nakuha niyo.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, 360 minus B. Plus, again, plus, and F3 naman, 18. Acting at an angle. What angle? 90 degrees. Okay. So, 90 degrees siya, nag-a-act. Then, if you press equal, makuha mo ang summation fx ng summation fy. Okay, 23.35. Let's put it here. Ay, bangin natin maggamitan ng nina. That is 23. This is the summation of forces along x. 33 point. Pero daw to? 35, 4, 3. 3. 434. 35.434. 434. This is in kilonewton. And of course, the summation of Fy. This is in 35.63897 or 98898. Oops. 35. 63, 8, 898. This is in kilonewton. Okay. Okay. Actually, I think naka-store ito niya X. Dili naka-store. Automatic. Anyway, so asyetiyet summation fx nga summation fy. But we are trying to solve for the magnitude again. Di ba? Makato ka ha shift. Okay. Makato ka ha, this is the answer, 23.35 and 35.63. Makato kita shift complex. Tapos ikala natin ha argument number 3. 3 angle theta number 3. Yes. So the result, this is 42.609. Let's put it here, 42.6094. This is the resultant. 42.6, hindi ko memorize, 60941. This is in kilonewton. And of course, the direction, what's the direction?
56.
56.763.
76305.
Is in degrees. Ada na. Duha na natin na solve. An iya magnitude nga an iya direction. May pa natin kailangan i-solve. Since this is non-concurrent, kailangan gap natin i-solve an iya location kung diin siya nag-a-up. Okay? So, paano natin maano? take note, mabalik na naman kita didihan naton in state of equilibrium. Ay na to. Di man. Nakan kita a certain structure or certain force system. Structure hiya kay ini nga mga force system nag-aakman ito hiya dili mga structure. Okay, so a certain structure or force system will be in state of equilibrium only if these four equations, the static of equilibrium equations are satisfied. Since we are now on 2D naman ato, di ba? O, summation fx should be 0, summation fy should be 0, and the summation of moment should be 0. That is including, summation fz kasi, di natin magagamitan because we are just in 3D pa. So, ang summation of moment lang should be satisfied. Okay. Now, right here, okay. Inihiya nga F1, F2, and F3, they are not in state of equilibrium. Di ba? Pero kung imo nga iupod ang resultant, and reverse ang resultant, magzi-zero ito niya, magiging state of equilibrium. So, in other words, the resultant is the net force. Kumbaga, it is a single force nga imo nga ni i-reverse, magbabalance out ang tanan nga forces. Okay? So the resultant is parang an usa nga force nga magbabalance out. Ang reverse and resultant is an usa nga force nga magbabalance out ang tanan nga forces. Or in other words, these three forces, the net effect of these three forces can be summed up with this resultant. Okay? Nakakita, if you can still remember, we have a theorem introduced by Varignon. We call it the Varignon's theorem. Okay. Well, the Varignon's theorem. The Varignon's theorem states that the effect of a force is equal to the sum of the effect of its component. Nakuha niyo? The effect of a force daw is equal to the effect of its component. Ibig sabihin, if the resultant is the net force or kumbaga ang result imo nga ni-sum up an F1, F2, F3, the result is the resultant. Ibig sabihin, an effect an F1, F2, F3 to any points on the system is equal to the effect of the resultant, of their resultant, ini nga resultant. Ito ibig sabihin it Varignon's theorem. The effect of a force, which is the resultant, is equal to the sum of the effect of its component. And component and resultant is F1, F2, and F3. Okay? Ito ni Varignon's theorem. Or conversely, the effect of F1 is equal to the sum of the effect of F1x and F1y, han iya components and F1. Diba? Ito ni Varignon's theorem. So we will use the Varignon's theorem in solving for the location of the resultant. Basta maaram kita niya magnitude 42, and then niya Fy, Fx, tapos niya direction naman is 56.76. Okay, so how do we solve that? Okay. Gagamiton naton an static of equilibrium equation na yakan nga the summation of moment daw. The summation of moment is always equal to 0. Okay. Or amo ito ni the Varignon's theorem. O sige, diin mapili kahin point with imo reference point. It could be any point. Kay nayakan man di ba? Varignon's theorem states that the effect of a force on any point, okay, on any point on the system or on the system is equal to the effect of the force. So any point it imo pwede i-consider nga reference point. Okay, let's consider, okay, ini tip lang ha. It pinakamadagmit para madagmit it imo pag-solve. I-consider it point kung hain damo it mazi-zero. Damo it mazi-zero. Sorry, wrong kuan. Damo it forces nga magzi-zero. Okay, example. Pipilion ko it point C. Okay, pipilion ko it point C. Kita niyo yung point C, di man, point C. Let's focus lang yung reading. Magsa-sum of moment ako, ha point C, because mazi-zero ini nga force, because para niya moment arm, the moment of this force, an F3, at point C is 0. Di ba? Tapos, ang moment naman han X component han A is also 0. Di ba? So, damo nga forces, it magzi-zero it moment. So, buti la, it akon isosolve. Okay? Sama iton. Dili nga nag-specified problem, pili it point kung hain damo it magzi-zero it moment para madagmit it pag-solve. Okay. So, makala kita. We are now summing the moment at point C. C is our reference point. We will use the Vergnon's theorem. Okay, this is our summation fx and summation fy. Okay. Nayakan kita, the summation fx, dili kasi kita maaram kung hain niya nag-aak, di ba? Dili kita maaram kung hain niya nag-aak. So, it aton bubuhaton, wait lang. Okay. Tugan. Pag-drawing kita hinkuan, mag-drawing kita Cartesian plane or x and y component at the point kung hain mo ginpilan imo reference point at point C. So, ada dili imo kuan x and y component. Let me put it here. Dili man ako kuan, dili na la drawing ko dala. Okay, so tugad. Wait lang ha, nangangalimot ako. Okay, yes. Sugad, dili na lang kita. Okay, so dili kita maaram kung hain di nag-aaktan aton resultant, which is amo nga naging papabiling, di ba? So, mag-a-assume kita kung hain nga point. Actually, bisan dili ka mag-assume. Okay, so let's use fx, summation of fx. Hain ba nagkukuan ang summation fx? This is positive, right? Kita daw. Summation fx is positive 23.35. Diba? So, I'll put it here, positive. Ibig sabihin, the direction of the force in nga summation fx is to the right. Diba? Kay positive man hiya. So, it's to the right. Okay? To the right here. Okay. Put here, this is the summation of fx multiplied by a certain distance. Ano nga distance it imo multiply? Dili kita maaram kung ano nga distance. Wait lang, nalilipungan ako. Okay. Makain ka, ma'am. Ako, PRC. Okay. Hindi nga nalimutan akan ko an. Okay, the resultant is 42.60941 kilonewton, acting at an angle of 56.76305. Okay, I think we need to solve first kung ano ang moment hanyanhi. Ay, tama. Okay, nasagad. Okay, I'm sorry, nakakalimut ako. Okay, isa-solve lang naton kung ano ang moment tanan nga forces at the chosen reference point. Kung naton chosen reference point is point C. So solve natin ang iya mga an moment han tanan nga forces. Okay? Okay, so the moment yes. The summation of moment at point C. Kaya diri equal to 0 pa because diri pa natin i-include an aton resultant. Okay, the summation of moment at C. Okay, we have here let's use this one. Okay, so an F1 may daan niya y component, di ba? Adi niya y component. Let's name this F1y. Tapos may daghap niya x component. Let's name this F1x. But the F1x, the moment of F1x is 0 at point C. So diri natin i-include an F1x. Okay? And also an F2 may daan niya x component, I mean y component. This is the F2y. And of course may daan niya x component. This is the F2x. Okay. Yun. Okay, let's the F1y lang and F3 naman, zero gapit iya moment because it's acting on the reference point itself. So wala niya moment arm, zero it iya moment. So it makakamedala moment an F1y, an F2y, and F3y. Okay. So F1y multiplied by Pirate iya moment arm from the reference point. This is your reference point. This is your F1y. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is 7 units or 7 meters. Okay. Plus, take note, we are taking clockwise as positive. We are taking clockwise as the positive moment. Okay, so since F1 is upward, that's adyan an aton point, an reference point naton. So iya moment nga maki-create an F1 is clockwise, di ba? We are taking clockwise as positive. Okay? Different hiyahan pagkita han angle. Kaya an angle counterclockwise and positive. Dinhi clockwise is positive. Okay? And F1y 7 sana. F2x naman plus, this is plus F2x, this is your F2x multiplied by simply plus gihap because the moment nga maka-create an F2x is also clockwise multiplied by the distance from the reference point 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 4, the perpendicular distance. Okay. Plus ba? F2y naman la, di ba? Ang F2y kasi is downward. Tapos add mo reference point. So, yung maka-create nga moment is counterclockwise. So, that is not plus. Minus siya. Minus F2y multiplied by the distance of F2y from C. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, the perpendicular distance is 4. Hello? Can you still
Sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes,
I
sir.
thought na
Yes, sir.
sorry. I thought na-disconnect ako. Kinagyakan nga return to the meeting. Okay, so this is, pero ito ang distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is 4. 4 units. Okay. So let's now identify the magnitude of F1y, F2x, and F2y. F1y, this is, you cannot use the complex mode here because may na natin moments. Pero yun here. F1y, that is 25 cosine theta, which is 53 point. Store ko nga ito ha, so A na latag gagamiton. Plus, oops, dere pa. Cosine A multiplied by 7. Take note ha, in 25 cosine A, yun nga, 25 cosine A and F1y pala ito niya, times 7 pa. Careful, pag-input a calculator. Plus, yung F2x mo, your F2x, that is 10 kilonewton, 10 kilonewton, cosine, yes, cosine. Yung yung angle mo, theta 2, gin-store ko nga to B. Di ba? Ano man, gin-store ko B. So, I'll use B na lang here. Iniya, an F2x pala. So, you still have to multiply this by 4. Yun. Minus, F2y naman. F2y is 10 sine. Yung B is na-store ni mo ha Sorry, yung theta mo is na-store ni mo have B. Diba? Theta 2 is stored at B. So, B have. Multiplied by, again, this is 4. Yun. So, your summation of moments at C is now equal to 25 cosine A times 7. Gamit ko calculator. Kaya hindi ko gamit calculator. Okay. Makato ka ha computer, mode computer. 25 cosine, nag-store ako in A times 7 plus 10 cosine B times 4 minus 10 sine B times 4. Yun. Equals, so the answer is 122 point, pero ba ito niya? 3707556. Daming number, 37, 7, 556. Dapat dirigin ko kang because this is not yet the final answer. So we'll store it at C. Store ko C, kay gusto ko diri rounded, it akong gagamiton. So na-store natin ha A, B, tas alin naman store ko hiya C. Store ko hiya C, shift store at C. Yun. Okay, so na-store na hiya C ang submission moment. So ini nga moment, di ba? Amo niya moment han force system at point C. Now, nayakan man it Varignon's theorem nga the effect of a force is equal to the effect of its component. So iniya nga F1, F2, F3 amo niya ang moment. So ibig sabihin, if Varignon's theorem is true, dapat ang resultant gihap naton amo gihap ini it moment. Di ba? Nayakan ang Varignon's theorem. So dapat ang resultant nga 42.60941, iya moment is also 122.3707556 at point C. So what will we do? Okay, mag-drawing ka din Mag-drawing ka Cartesian plane. Okay. Take note, positive, di ba? Positive ba? 122.37. Ibig sabihin, this is, take note, clockwise and aton positive hand moment. Positive man niya, ibig sabihin clockwise. Okay, take note, ang aton direction ng aton force is 56.76. Diba? So, kumbaga kung ikukuha natin na Cartesian plane, nasugad hiya didi. Diba? This is your resultant, tas adyan imo data. Kumbaga, tipakad upward to the right hiya. It iya direction. Kay 56.76 man. So, upward to the right. So, ano man iton bubuhaton naton? Okay, take note, positive and moment. Okay, ha? Nakukuha ng pag-explain, so you have to listen. And if diri man naintindihan, please allow yung you ask questions later. Okay. So, positive and moment, ibig sabihin clockwise. Tapos, ang direction niya is upward to the right. Okay. Now, there is only one possibility kung hain it kamutangan hit imo resultant. Okay? And that is only on quadrant, yes. Quadrant, what's this? 2. Nasugalit imo resultant dida. This is your resultant. Kay ano? Kasi, let's use different color para makita niyo. Usalit possibility imo resultant. Delete to niya didi. Na-intersect hiya x-axis and y-axis at quadrant 2. So, this is your resultant. Kay ano nga nakayakan ako nga delete resultant? Because, unang-una, positive hiya. So, dapat, para makita nga it direction ng resultant is upward to the right, di ba? So, duduha malit possibility nga iya kamutangan, dida nga hinaadiha ubos. Ang adiha ubos diri pwede because positive and moment. Adi nga niha ubos, di ba? Adi man ang imo point C. This is your point C. So, kung adiha ubos siya, ang iya moment nga makakreate is counterclockwise. Diri positive, negative. Pero kung adiha baw-baw, ang iya moment nga makakreate at point C is positive. That's why the only The only place nga mag-a-act an resultant is kung adi diha bawbaw. I mean, adi diha quadrant 2 na intersect. Naintindihan ba kung kay ano adi quadrant 2? Hello? Any question? Please ask question.
Question po, sir.
Yes? Hello?
Naiintindihan ko, sir.
Okay. Naintindihan. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so, okay ha? Again. An ear direction is upward to the right. Upward to the right. So, possibility lang niya, dida or didi. Dili man kasi pwede nga napasuga, di ba? Kay upward to the right. Kaya kan didi, upward to the right, 56.76. So, duha possibility inila. Dili pwede iti ubos kay positive and moment. Kay ikaling mo kaya ubos and maki-create niya nga moment, didi is nasugad ngadto. Maging negative. Takay na kan didi sa mission ng moment is positive. Diba? Okay. Ha? Tigam ni. Okay. Drawing ko lang ha. Tuhayan ko ulit ko drawing. Dili kita maaram kung basta i-line of action hindi. This is your resultant. It could be that your resultant is ani dinhi or ani dinhi or adididi basta maaram kita nga iya line of action. Take note ha. Maaram kita nga niya line of action is at this at this line. Okay, another theorem nga akong i-introduce is may kita sinisiring nga principle ngayon, direct theorem. The principle of transmissibility. The principle I don't know if you are familiar with that. Principle of transmissibility. It states that the effect of a force is equal throughout its line of action. The effect of a force is equal throughout its line of action. Okay? So kung bisan pa ikain mo nga force, basta ada hiyat line of action niya, amo lang aha ito nit iya epekto. Pwede nimo ibalin it force bisan diin basta ada lahit iya line of action. Okay, ano ibig sabihin nito? Yun. Just delete this one. Oops. Okay, anyway. Okay, delete. Okay, so this is the resultant. Paano natin ma-determine? Actually, aton gin determine din is ini nga distance. Ini nga distance. This one and this one. Okay, ulit ulit di rin natin maliliwat. Okay, that's why location niya yung bibilig. Okay, so paano? Okay, take note. This is the line of action of the resultant. So let's name this paano ba natin nangaran? Let's name this IY. IY because it's along the y-axis. And this distance naman, let's name this as IX. IX because it's along the x-axis. Okay. O, unahon naton laanay, i-assume naton nga aanhi din yan aton resultant. Aanhi yan aton resultant. Kaya ano aada? Kaya gusto ko nga aada. Kaya nayakan principle of transmissibility, okay la daw nga, bisan ikain. Diba? Because of the principle of transmissibility and states that the effect of a force is equal throughout his line of action. Okay. And also, I have a purpose kung kaya ano kung kada. Because if you resolve this into its component, diba? This is the resultant. This is your Rx or Rx. The summation of Fx. Sino naman? This is the summation of Fy. And component ba ng resultant? Di ba ang component ng resultant ang summation Fx ang summation Fy? Yun. So, if I sum the moment, take note this is your C. This is the point C. Amin hiyaan yadi nga point C. Yadi. Okay. So to solve for IY, take note an atom summation of moment is equal to positive 122.370 or whatever. Ginstore ko yung adto hasi. Naman, ginstore ko yung hasi. So, amit i-evaluate summation of moment. So, dapat, ang summation of moment and moment and resultant, pero ba ito niya? Summation of forces along X multiplied by IY. Di ba? This should be equal to the C. Ang value na niyan hina. Ang summation of Fy, ang iya moment is 0 because it's passing through the point C. Di ba? Summation of Fy is 0 because it's passing through the point C. Wala niya moment arm. So, 0 hiya. Okay. So, in other words, if you are solving for the IY, this is just C over summation Fx. Take note, your C is the value of the summation of moments, 122.3707556. Ginstore ko asi. So, paano natin mabibiling ang IY? Ada na. Karita calculator. C over, ano ang value ng summation Fx? Di ba nasolve na natin ito? Nasolve na natin ang summation Fx sa ADDD. Here. Ada man. Di ba? Nakita niyo? Summation Fx. And that is, ano ba ito yun? 23.35434 watts. So the answer is 5.2397. 5.2397. Ang dako man. 5.3297. Asya ba? 323. 23.974. This is in meters. And so this is your IY. This is the location ano sa mga force. Okay, paano naman natin ma-determine ang IX? Ibabalhin ko na naman nga di ang force. Ibabalhin ko nga di an resultant. This is the resultant. Kaya ano ko ginbalhin? Kay wala karag buot. Kay naya kanit principle of transmissibility, the effect of a force is equal throughout its line of action. Gusto ko man ikada para ma-solve natin ang IX. Okay. So this is your summation of forces along X. Ini. This one right here, this is the summation Fx. Tapos dito naman, this is the summation of Fy. Yun. So take note, the summation of moment is equal to C, and value on C is the summation of moment, this one. Okay, and that is, okay, kita mo, summation Fx, wala na niya moment. Okay, because it is passing through the point where you are getting the moment, and that is at point C. So what man niya moment arm? Diba? Summation Fx times, what's the moment arm? 0. So 0 lagap itiya. Ayun na natin inupod. Add na lang ang summation Fy. So summation Fy multiplied by, mo nito niya nga distance, and Ix. So Ix therefore is equal to C over the summation Fy. So, makalika na naman. C over the summation of Fy. Summation of Fy is 35.63. 35.63898. Yun. 3.433. Ay, nanto. Ix therefore is 3.993. 433. 43362. 43362. Nakikita niyo tak screen?
Di ka maalam yung butang ni mama? Di ka maalam din ko ng butang? Ang friction pen?
Yung kain ba ng friction pen kasi?
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay, this is in meter. Any question? Okay, so nasolve natin ang direction, ang magnitude. It's right here. The magnitude and the direction. And of course, an location. Adi na. This one and this one. Yun. Okay, do you have any question? It's already 12:06.
Sir, question po.
Yes,
And
what's your
so,
question?
Sir, question. Di na pohan pagkuha pohan moment, para pohan componentan F1y, kaya ano po, sir, cosine?
F1Y.
Opo.
Oh my God. Oh my God. They're gonna know. Char. Mali ako. Bakit ngayon ka lang nagsabi? This should be sine A because it's the y component and the theta is measured from the x-axis. So from the horizontal here, dapat this is sine A. Okay, thank you. But please next time, if you see something like this, please raise your question right away. So, yan na. Magliliwat na naman kita. Ay, nakita pagliniwat. Basta kay sign dito hindi dahiya. Nausap pa daw ako kay ano nga dako, 5.232. Diba? Kay an aton ko, dapat diri magawa sit. Pero ba ni 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lang nga ni an aton ko. Nag 5 hiya. Nausap pa daw ako because dapat ngayon this is sin A. Okay, F1y kasi 'di ba? F1y. This is F1y. So F1y is 25 sin A because the angle is here. Okay. So next time please may nga sayo pit akong solution. Diri man na perfect. Oh, sayo. Diri pa ako perfect. Balitaw. Thank you. Okay, any other question? May napakita sa nga type of force system and non-coplanar or space forces on space. Ano ba ito kuan? Di ba? Hay na doon akong yung surat. Di man. Force system. Coplanar, concurrent, tapos coplanar, non-concurrent. Amo pala na-discuss. May nakita non-coplanar or this is sometimes called as forces on space. Forces on space in the sense nga 3D naman niya. So add to na hit space. Parang 3D na. Which is in real life, amo talaga nananabo. Diba? Forces on space. Non-coplanar. Okay, so amo ito nit aton i-discuss. Actually, may video si Ma'am Arjane. So please watch the video, hand forces on space or non-coplanar forces. May that needed to sample problem. Then if you have questions, raise your questions and we'll be glad to answer you. Okay. As for the topic that we have discussed today, do you have any question? Please ask your question. Kung may clarification or diri naintindihan or vague discussion or something, anything. Questions? May ba? Hello? Are you still there? Okay, you're still
na
there.
di ba, sir?
Okay, so if you don't have any questions na, wala na ba questions? It's already 12:10. I'll stop my presentation na. And, okay.
None so far, sir.
Okay, sige, nice. So, bakit mo pa yung nakadiscuss? Sure. Stop recording.